Randy, I apologize. What's your last name?
Odermatt. O-T-E-R-M-A-T.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And ma'am, your name?
Katie Sauer.
Oh, Haiti, I didn't recognize you over there. My apologies. Welcome.
Hey, man.
That's okay.
You don't look like a man.
It's the hair.
It's all good.
Very good.
Very good.
It is 4:01, and we're ready to start our Strategic Planning Committee meeting of April 4th, 2023. First off, did everybody get a copy of the handouts that Jacqueline had for us when you came in? Very good. I made a copy of the two different things, and actually they all include the same. I made a copy of our the Strategic Planning Committee report, which is in council. It'll be up for our approval at council tonight. There's 20 some odd pages. If anybody would like a hard copy of this, please say so. It's all yours, Jim. If somebody, Denny, you want one too? No, I got one, but I can get another one made. It's possible.
Yeah, it's in the packet. It was the same documents we circulated at the last meeting. Yeah, it was just the prior feedback that we went over at the last meeting that was handed out to each of you. We included that in the packet meeting minutes as well.
Very good. Very good. With that, then, if there, our goal today is continue to move through our plan. What I thought we would do was take each section one by one and have a second to review it. And then if there's discussion, we can discuss. And if not, we will vote to include it or not and continue to move forward from there. Prior to doing that, though, is there any old business from the last meeting that needs to be discussed? Go right ahead.
Thanks. I got a couple items. I had noted a couple meetings ago, and I'll keep it brief, and you guys can decide what you want to do to dispose of it, but there are at least 2 sets of meeting notes that are not accurately reflected in the draft document that we're looking at today. From a cursory look, I've provided information on one from a meeting we had in November and one that we had from probably 2 or 3 meetings ago, where the proper changes were, a motion was made to table them by Mr. Russell, who wasn't at the meeting, so it surprised me. But I'm going to note again that this document does not accurately reflect the vote or the discussion that we had in those 2 meetings, and I think something should be done to correct that. I do have a couple other items if they're...
Well, let's address that one first.
Sure.
So give us the 2 items that you would like that you think need to be changed on the current document.
I've done that, and
Where was that?
Reflected in your last meeting. I also commented again in the meeting just prior to this one, and I commented it thoroughly in emails back in November. So you have that documentation, and you folks can choose what you
Well,
want to
I
do with it.
appreciate that, Jim, but we would like to continue to move forward. You obviously have something very specific in this document that you say is not agreed to or changed. Could you please tell us what that is?
I don't. I want the document to reflect what we discussed. And when meetings are taken, notes are taken, and brought back to us, and they don't reflect what we have here, I think we're doing a disservice to the public. And I don't think it's my job to continue to do the job for the committee of reviewing those notes to make sure they're correct. I think each of us have a role in that. That being said, I think it's important enough. I think you guys have access to the same notes I do, and I'm going to refer you to do that work yourself. But until that's corrected, I am going to have that concern. Happy to meet with you privately and talk about it if you look at it and you have concerns with what I put out there. But at this point, it was discussed thoroughly in emails back in November, and I did discuss it at the last meeting, and you tabled the item. So I think this body's plenty clear in that.
Actually, I think, Jim, for the issue of transparency, I would like you to bring those items up now. We'll give you plenty of time to bring them up, and let's move forward so that you can clear your issues with this current document.
Well, I don't think I can, because I've just received another draft, which is totally renumbered, totally done. It's not a red line version. The way we're approaching this may be familiar to the people who are dealing with it individually, but it's not familiar to me. So I'm not in a position where I could do that. I guess what I would do, I'd probably be willing to prepare something for one of your next meetings. But again, I've already brought it up multiple times, and I think, again, it does the public a disservice if we agree on something and it doesn't end up in the document, and I don't think that's proper. And if you'd like me to do it for a future meeting, in collaboration with another member of the committee that's interested in, so that you are all sure that what's being discussed is proper, I'm happy to do that.
I think that the interest of the community needs to be upheld, and if you think that's an issue and you want to take the time to get that, quite honestly, I don't remember anything that was not already addressed in this document, and I'd love to see it, and so that we could get your issues or your concerns straightened out. So with that, though, I would still like to move forward. Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Jim, I remember you bringing it up, but I apologize. I don't remember off the top of my head. And so happy to review that. The version that was circulated this evening is the version that has been sent to you over the last couple of weeks. This was just a version that took our red line and reformatted it so that it was easier to review when we sent it out to the folks that we were asking for feedback from. So we did reorganize based off of some of our prior conversation, making a safe community number one, combining some of the prior versions that we had discussed at our meeting with the goals. So those should all be reflected. There should not be any substantive changes beyond that, just making it flow so that we can read it a little bit easier. The other document that was handed out to you were just copies of the other feedback that I had forwarded to you that we had received following our last meeting from Mark Kowalski, the superintendent of Liberty Benton Schools, Krista Kreitz-Miller, the superintendent of Findlay City Schools, as well as then Chase Eichenberry, our regional contact for Regional Growth Partnership, which is our Jobs Ohio contact. So that is the other packet in front of you. Jeff, per our earlier conversation, I did prepare slides to just clarify based off of your feedback at the beginning. We want to go through the objective level of each section, not the action level, correct?
Very good.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect, because I didn't go into all the actions. I didn't think we were going to make it there today. So what I did do to start off, if we may, the one goal that we did not. Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I did have a couple more old business items. We were
Mr.
skipping ahead.
Stasiak.
Well, it's pretty simple. At your last meeting, I had abstained. You folks voted to go ahead and pay Planning Next an additional $8,000. We all got an email confirming that they have not met the obligation of the contract. I don't think that's due to their fault, but that it's due to they're waiting for us for some data, and I think that's reasonable. However, the way the contract was written when I reviewed it, it's not time specific, it's action specific. So I guess in cleaning up that old business, we should probably qualify any legislation which is needed in order to pay them fully, to cover both what they've done so far and the additional cost of that what you want to do. And we probably should make sure there's a thorough review of that. So whether it be my office involved with that or a representative of council and the mayor's office, but I think it's important that we're very careful in the language of any final agreement with Planning Next to make sure we get all deliverables, all items are met, and the fee is fixed. So that was my concern, and that's why I abstained from the last meeting, because I was concerned that they hadn't met all the deliverables, and we've got an acknowledgement that they didn't. So that was my point on that one.
Any comments on the auditor's concerns. There will be legislation tonight, add-on legislation this evening, that will include that $8,000 for Planning Next, so that that can be discussed and get on council's agenda. Mr. Hellman.
Jeff, is this something that you would want to meet with Mr. Stachek on, to you and he, and I don't know whether the mayor wants to be part of that or not, work out these issues that he believes are there?
I guess I'm not sure. Yeah, obviously, Dennis, I'm fine with doing that, but here's my point in this. The deliverables have not changed at all. Planning Next still has to get to us certain things. Now, what's changed was the timeline. We were supposed to be done 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a considerable amount of time and effort well beyond what they expected to in the original contract. The additional funds are simply for time spent dealing with us, quite frankly, and trying to get to the point where they can give us that final deliverable, which is the process and the final document. To me, nothing's changed with the original contract. The deliverables are what they are. So we could go through it again, but I think we're ultimately going to come to the same place.
Well,
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I don't have a concern with doing it if this body wants to do it. I would not be in favor of paying additional money myself, but the committee has voted to do it. My concern is just, I want to make absolutely sure this needs to be treated, I guess, more like an amendment to a contract or a change order to a contract. In other words, we're leaving the existing contract in place. They've asked for more money because they feel that it's well-deserved. Some of us feel that it's well-deserved. And based on that, I just want to make sure that in the end, it's clear from my office's perspective. So again, when a third party comes in and audits it, they look at it and they said, well, they didn't meet the original. However, the legislation that added the extra $8,000 also covered the fact that it included the original specs and that they are done and it is complete. And that's, I just want to be cautious about how we do that. So I don't just want it to be the one. I think the document we have now is fairly appropriate, but I want to make sure it's completely appropriate. We have all the language in there.
Mayor.
Yeah, so following our last meeting, legislation should have been prepared. It wasn't, therefore it wasn't included in your packet. So when I noticed that, I reached out to Jeff and we requested that be prepared to be add-on legislation. The wording will read a contract extension of a not to exceed amount of $8,000. That's what will be added on. Obviously, as it works through the process, if the auditor has any concerns, we can amend the legislation and replace that to make sure it addresses from an audit perspective, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Dennis.
I guess one last thing. I agree with you. I mean, I think Planning Next has gone above and beyond in a way, dealing with us in terms of being patient while we work through the language here. I was just trying to address Jim's concerns. I guess maybe another way to deal with it is if you could put it in writing, a one-pager, not, please? I could work with the mayor. Just one page, not anything detailed. No, and we can take a look at it at the next meeting and either just say yes or no and move on.
And I think the legislation is just going to give the mayor authority to sign the document and appropriate the money, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
So my concern was that we have involvement with that before the end, or that this body and our office has involvement. I want all parties satisfied. So.
Yeah, it'll just be up for first reading tonight, so we'll have 3 weeks to get that taken care of. So we should be good there, Jim. Appreciate that. Dennis, is that good for you?
That's fine with me.
Very good. One more item of old business.
Yeah, one last item. I've mentioned multiple times in some of the reviews of the details of the document that some of the things in the document are not city functions. And I think tonight, as part of that statement in the past, and that I've covered that with, there's been a lot of ways to look at that. Well, we can participate, or we can do this, or we can do that. One of the ones in particular that we talked about quite a bit was assisting in delinquent taxes. There's other things. This body needs to be aware, and unfortunately our director of law is not here tonight, that the powers of municipal corporations are spelled out specifically in the ORC. This document should not contain directions for us that are not a power spelled out in 71701 of the ORC. So I can leave it at that for now, but I would encourage every one of the members here to familiarize themselves with the powers of municipal corporations under the Ohio Revised Code. It's not a very long section. It's looks like 3 pages. No, I'm sorry, I'm teasing. Yeah, 3 pages, 4 pages, and then some details after that. But I think it's very, very important you folks have an understanding of those as you go through these tasks, because it would be very easy to overlook something, put something in here, or give the community an impression that we want to drive something that we have no authority to do. So I just mentioned that because I've brought it up before, and I wanted to draw from a specific source regarding that for your benefit.
Jim, I appreciate that. I think there are 2 things I would say to that. Number one, we've always said that the plan was only for the city of Findlay and things that we can do. So I think that keeps in line with what you're saying. Also, I would suggest that we'll rely on your expertise with the knowledge of the law, and since you've read through that as we go through these, so that you can call those out in case we miss something, so that we can make those amendments as we go forward or have those discussions.
I appreciate your confidence in me, but I am not the city attorney, and I'm not city council. And I think I don't want you relying solely on me for those things. I think it's important that you folks have an individual understanding and you draw on your director of law where it's appropriate. I'm just simply pointing out that it's clear to me from a review of that section that a number of these items are questionable, and in my opinion, probably shouldn't be in here.
So I am positive that once this plan is done, that it'll have a thorough review by the law director in case we miss anything. So he'll have the opportunity to read through that, as will all of council when this is done, because council will have to approve this also. So I think if you see anything as we go along, Jim, that would be great to let us know so we can correct it prior to that point in time. But failing that, we also have several different reviews going forward before this plan is ever put into play and approved by council. Any other old business? Very good. Mayor, I will turn it over to you.
All right, so I don't know if we want to discuss this. Well, let's see where the conversation goes. This is the updated recommendation from Planning Next on a safe community. So if you recall at our prior meeting, we said a safe community, but that wasn't really the consistent format with the other goals. And so I reached out to Planning Next with the committee's support to get feedback from them. Given that this is the first time you guys are seeing this, happy to circle back at a later date on this goal if you would so choose, or if anybody has some specific feedback right away, we can discuss that. Any initial thoughts? I can read it just for if it's difficult. A safe community where people feel comfortable in their community because of its well-maintained physical appearance and well-trained and equipped emergency response. I wasn't like over the moon about it, but I don't really have better language for it either. So I don't know if everybody wants to kind of think on that and we can discuss it at the next meeting. Or if everybody's like, yep, that sounds good, proceed.
Do we know what they meant by where people feel comfortable? That's pretty generic. I'm not sure what they were going for.
I say push till the next meeting. Give us 2 weeks or 3 weeks to digest it.
And if folks have, other thoughts, recommendations, I know I reached out asking for folks to send them. I didn't receive anything on the big side of things, but if folks have other recommendations, all ears. So, all right, that is in the updated version highlighted that you received this evening, so we can discuss it at the next meeting. With that, what we would like to do this evening is go through the each of the goals with the objectives. And what Councilman Wobser and I discussed and would like to do, if at all possible, is I'll read through them, and then if there's one you would like to pull for consideration or separate discussion, we can do that. Otherwise, we would approve the slate of objectives. These are the same ones that have been consistent over the last probably 3 or 4 discussions. No major changes. So on goal 1, the objectives listed in your packet as page 2 and 3. 1.1, maintain and enhance a safe community through the continued support of emergency services. So again, this is under the safe community goal. 1.2, maintain support for accountable community policing. 1.3, ensure short and long-term detention needs are met. So that's speaking about water and flood mitigation. 1.4, continually improve through training, technology, and good policy. And 1.5, decrease flood risk. Is there any that someone would like to request be pulled for separate discussion? If not, do I have a motion to approve the slate of objectives for goal 1?
I do have a question.
Why don't-
1.1, does that include non-city provided services like Hanco, the EMS service? Is that our presumption here?
Well, given your prior statement about it being specific to City of Findlay government operations, no.
Okay.
Yeah, and 1.3 isn't water retention, it is jail retention.
Thank you. When I read then the flood risk, I was like, wait a second, I don't think that's what, my apologies.
Different
And I
retention.
think that we should state that in the goal, that we should put an adjective in front of the detention. I think it's an adjective. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, because I didn't necessarily want to put jail detention, which is really specified then in the action. We could just pay me inmate detention.
Works for now.
Any specific, everybody on board with adding inmate into the goal to be more specific?
I'm fine with it.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Very good.
No, Chris, this is just the committee.
Yes, sir.
In seeing this like this all on one page, I guess I'd ask the group, ensure short and long-term detention needs are met. What about alternative sentencing? Should that be covered in that sentence, and/or alternative sentencing? I know we've got some things here throughout, but if we're saying a safe community, part of that is recidivism. I think that's the right word. Did I say that right?
So that's why it is specific to detention. I didn't use jail because a community alternative sentencing center would still be considered an inmate detention facility, but not specific to a jail facility.
Right, so I guess I'm asking if, because how this appears is it's all framed together, should this include also, at least in 1.3, because it's not just detention, but there's also reintroducing folks into the community or alternative sentencing. The judges would have a better word for it, but should that be part of addressing this issue here? In other words, we're just saying we want to make sure to keep our community safe. We're detaining the people who make us feel not safe. Do we want to do that? I don't know the answer. I present it to the committee for consideration.
I'd look at it as a bullet under there. This is kind of the high scale, the higher level, goal, and a sub bullet could be that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, and I'm sorry, Jim, real briefly, what was your concern with this, not including what?
Well, in today's world, it's not just about detention.
Right.
It's somebody comes in and we don't want somebody to lose their job because we detained them to be safe. So we used to have like the work facility or other. In other words, should this say ensure short, long-term detention or alternative sentencing needs are met? Follow what I'm saying? In other words,
Yeah.
we're so specific to detention there. If that's our goal, to detain, and that has evolved, and I'm wondering how some of our social service organizations that have commented on this would feel about that. In other words, it's bigger than this, but
they-
it needs to be high level, and I agree with Mr. Russell on that sense. We got to keep it high level, but
Yeah, and they
My-
can wordsmith it, but what detention doesn't mean 24/7. It could be just like what we're talking with the alternative
With the cast.
facility, and I see that as a sub-bullet under, that's 1.3B, as Denny said.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
What about, all right, ensure I was trying to think of ensuring appropriate community criminal justice needs are met. So make it a little more broad.
Oh, we could broaden it out. Repeat that one more time, Mayor.
Ensuring local criminal justice needs are met. Now, that could be a little too broad because then it thinks about staffing and all of that, but
I mean,
Yeah.
so you're kind of creating the courts item here. And if.
court,
and
criminal
if-
justice, and recruiting. Yeah, and when I put this one in there, this was really specific to the jail facility discussions that are occurring. Okay, well, do we want to pull this one, approve the others, and come back next time with different language?
Thoughts? I would make a motion that we approve it with the word inmate after term, and then with the footnote that 1.3B will discuss the cask type facility.
Alternative. An alternative to that, I know you made a motion,
No, go right ahead.
so we have short term, we have long term, I don't know what other terms there are. Remove short and long term and just say ensure inmate detention needs are met.
Oh, how does that suit everybody?
do you need the word inmate? Just ensure detention needs are met? 'Cause I'm also
Water
thinking of-
or inmate, that goes back to the
Well, and I'm actually, I forgot about that, sorry, but, because I'm also thinking of social services. How many times has a judge said you're gonna go to counseling, or you're gonna do community service? You're detained, but you're not. It's something alternative, and that's what I was mentioning for that line.
So based on this, I think, Mayor, your suggestion to pull 1.3, I think you have an idea of what the conversations are. There's some wordsmithing that needs to happen, but it seems like the group is looking to be broad, that we're looking at the point where the court systems tell an individual, this is the next step, be it from, as Jim mentioned, social services, detention, and what that might look like, that this is a broad goal under which many things are, and it might kind of be, in essence, the court mandate, court punishment part of it.
Yeah,
And so yank it and wordsmith and bring it back at the next meeting.
is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Excuse me, I almost said same sign, Mayor, sorry. It's a pet peeve of hers, yeah. So, very good. Moving on.
And then a motion to approve 1.1, 2, 4, and 5 as written.
No. I did not. I took that just as pulling 1.3. So I would make a motion that we approve all the other bullets except for 1.3.
Second.
Second by Mr. Russell. All those in discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Everything is approved except for 1.3, which will be wordsmithed and reintroduced.
So goal 2, a well-run city government that is transparent, easy to engage with, and prioritizes its employees and citizens. So the objectives under this one are continue to lead in collaboration and operational efficiency with partners. 2.2, improve upon communications to ensure information is clear, accessible, and transparent. 2.3, modernize technology, software systems, and processes. 2.4, ensure that the City of Findlay government is an employer of choice in the region. 2.5, maintain and invest, in city facilities. 2.6, continue to ensure the city's long-term financial strength and stability. 2.7, model values of being open and friendly to all through city operations. And 2.8, maintain, plan, and invest in infrastructure to ensure it's safe, affordable, and high quality. And in parentheses, I didn't know if plan, invest, leverage made more sense. So those were just some word options I provided. Thoughts?
Why wouldn't 2.5 be under 2.8? 2.5, invest in city facilities. City facilities are infrastructure. It's the same as 2.8. 2.8 makes 2.5 unnecessary.
So we could combine, however, I felt that they were two kind of separate ones specific to, so when you look at them, obviously the facilities were specific more so to our buildings themselves, where 2.8 was more so on the water sewer infrastructure, but we could definitely move, there's only I think 2 or 3 bullets for 2.5, we can move those under 2.8.
I was going to say, is the water plant a infrastructure or a facility? And is fire station number 2 infrastructure or a facility?
For sake of the audit,
Jim.
we would call it a capital asset, and they are all capital assets. And that's really what we're talking about there, maintain and invest in our capital assets, and that would include streets and everything else.
So Jim, is that a
Motion?
motion that 2.5 and 2.8 should be merged to say maintain, plan, and invest in city assets to ensure it's safe, affordable, and high quality?
It's capital assets, maintain and invest, maintain, plan, and invest.
It's not a bad idea, Jim. Glad you came up with it.
Infrastructure.
Sometimes I don't even have to try.
All right, Mayor, would you repeat that, please, so everybody can consider it?
Maintain, plan, and invest in city capital assets to ensure it is safe, affordable, and high quality. And we don't need city, but maintain, plan, and invest in capital assets to ensure it's safe, affordable, and high quality.
And then that takes out 2.5, is that what we're saying? Okay, so we eliminate 2.5. Is there any of the sub-bullets in 2.5, A and B that should be moved?
Just
Yeah, they would be
They
moved.
just merge.
Thank you. Okay, very good.
I will make it as a motion, just so Jim isn't on the spot with me putting words in his mouth.
Very good. So we have a motion on the table to merge 2.5 sub-bullets into 2.8 and reword 2.8 as we see. No, that's not changed. No, that's okay. Just we changed the
Yeah, maintain, plan, and invest in capital assets to ensure.
so we're
it's
changing
safe,
infrastructure
affordable,
to
and high
capital
quality.
assets.
Correct.
Denny.
I got a question just for clarification in my
Yes, sir.
own head. Capital assets then is encompasses or includes infrastructure in your eyes, is that what you're
Right.
saying?
All the stuff that we approve for capital projects
Mhm.
essentially would fall into this.
Equipment, infrastructure, facilities.
Right.
So we're saying we want to spend whatever it takes to be a safe, affordable, high-quality community.
In short. Other discussion. Mr. Greeno? You sure? Mr. Russell? Ms. Warnicki? Okay. Very good. We have a motion on the table. Second by Mr. Greeno. to make those changes. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Nay.
Okay, I have a question regarding 2.6. To continue to ensure the city's long-term financial strength and stability. And we have a sub-bullet under there regarding the 1% income tax. Is that important enough that it should be raised up into that? In other words, we want to ensure our long-term financial strength and stability. And I think we said something to the effect of while maintaining our 1% income tax, as long as, I think somebody said as long as it's reasonable or realistically possible. I forget how the wording was, but it was good wording. In my opinion, that warrants being at this level.
Comments?
Concur.
Moving it up?
No, adding the language is as Jim was kind of saying, that it's worthy of being at that level.
So perhaps moving 2.6C, which currently reads as evaluate whether, well, I guess we're not evaluating, but the current bullet point is evaluate whether current financial resources are sufficient to meet the future needs of the city in delivering high-quality services. Explore additional funding sources to best protect the 1% income tax structure. But I think what, Jim, you're wanting to see it as a bullet of its own or added into 2.
I'm willing to defer to the group, but I would also be willing to make the motion to continue to ensure the city's long-term financial strength and stability while making a commitment to maintain, as long as possible, our 1% income tax rate.
Said less verbose, I would second that.
Yeah, pull whatever word out you like, Grant, because.
I mean, the emphasis.
Yeah, I agree with you.
The emphasis there is that you're just at that 2.6 level. You're making a statement that there's a commitment to the 1% income tax level,
Agreed.
and I think that's appropriate.
Very good.
Continue to ensure the city's long-term financial strength and stability while protecting the 1% income tax.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Russell. With that change, any discussion?
Quick question, if I may.
Absolutely.
Does that lock you into the 1% ad infinitum forever?
Wouldn't that
Or
be
if we-
awesome?
If we find, what was that?
Wouldn't that be awesome? But
Well, no, what I'm saying is, what happens if you come along and you need 0.25%? Because there was a disaster. We get hit by a tornado tomorrow and we say we need to,
Nope, I think this just
Okay.
means that we want to protect it as much as possible and do our best to
right.
utilize the resources we have.
I'm fine with
Yeah,
it.
Dennis, and I think, let's say that happened like it did in 2010, when we did the 0.25%. I actually was the treasurer at that point in time, and I argued against the 0.25% because it was too early in the year. We didn't know what our tax receipts were going to be at the end of the year, and they did come in higher than expected. In this case, let's say we were in that same situation, you couldn't object to the idea of raising it temporarily 0.25%. And by doing that, what we're inferring is it should be done temporarily because we want to prioritize protecting the 1%, like we did back then. And the community reaffirmed that on that second vote when they didn't make it permanent.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of this change signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Thank you very much. Motion passes.
So Chris, this is actually a committee meeting, so unless called upon, you can't speak, okay? Yep, thank you.
Mr. Russell. Thanks, Jacqueline.
I would motion to approve the slate of Goal 2 objectives as presented.
Second by Mr. Hellman. Any other discussion on section 2? Otherwise, we're going to approve the rest of them as presented. Seeing as none, all those in favor of approving section 2, except for the amendments previously made, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. We're done with section 2, except for those changes to be made. Thank you. Mayor.
All right, goal 3, a caring government that supports all community members and looks for opportunities to strengthen community bonds. The objectives, there are 2 of them.
Can we back up to the primary on that? I want to make sure that, I guess, how do you guys view, what do we mean when we say and looks for opportunities to strengthen community bonds? What does that mean to this group so that we're all on the same page? And I'm asking because I couldn't define it if I was asked to.
To me, I guess that's a good question, Jim. I think that the first thing that comes to mind is the work that Rob does with the other groups when it comes to mental health. Don't ask me to name those groups, Adamus, et cetera. Those are strengthening community bonds between us, between the city and those groups. I got to believe there's a bunch of other items like that happen either through city council or through the administration or even through other employees and their involvement with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, or is there still Girl Scouts? Organizations like that, that is part of what I read into this.
I'd go along with that. That sounds.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anybody
so
else?
I know we just,
Even churches or
Oh.
whatever,
Very good point.
social service agencies.
Yeah, I know
It
we-
is definitely a tough one to define. But one way is for when your son is in Denver and somebody says, "Where are you from?" He stands up a little taller and he throws his chest out and says, "I'm from Findlay, Ohio," and is proud of that fact. It's strong attendance at the July 4th parade, the Halloween parade. It's neighbors helping neighbors. It is the community cleanup event that has so many volunteers. There's just simply not enough work to be done for all the volunteers. It's people that pick up trash in downtown when they see it because they have a community they care about. It's helping it's all that intangible mush that makes people choose to live in Findlay instead of Perrysburg or Fremont or Lima.
I think, Jim, was your concern initially that this kind of is borderline of one of those issues that we're not involved in?
No, my concern was if somebody asked me to define it as a strategic planning committee member,
Understood.
I would look at them in the eye and go, I don't know. What we
what
meant by that.
That makes sense. Good. Mr. Hellman?
I'm just gonna say, give him Grant's phone number and we'll talk him through it.
You know, and I won't ask you to add that. I'm not making a motion or anything, but based on what Grant said, I kind of like that because it almost made me think opportunities to strengthen the community spirit and the bonds between its people. In other words, it really is something. We're talking about what does everybody say? Findlay, exactly what you're saying. Findlay is a special place. Does this say that strong enough? I like some of the things you said there, Mr. Russell, and I wish I would have got that when I read it, but I didn't.
The point made, I'm not sure. I think we actually spent quite a bit of time wordsmithing this before. It gets difficult. I would like to bring up one other 3.2, support a culture of community belonging, intergenerational diversity, equity, inclusion, tolerance, etc. I have not an issue with, but I have a question about the term equity used in this document. I think equity is a term that gets bandied about quite a bit these days, and I'm not sure everybody really understands what equity means when it comes to a political sphere. It's not the same as equality. It's not a synonym to equality. It's actually quite different. And my question for the committee is, should that term be included in this bullet? Mr. Russell.
Obviously, the 3 words diversity, equity, and inclusion said in that order is politically charged right now. I don't particularly like them in that order, and all that is implied by the words. I concur with what you say about your view on the equity thing, but I think the inclusion of the use of that phrase in this document brings onto this document a lot that it's just not trying to say, and it's a lot that it's not about, and I don't even know why we have. I don't even know why we have the parentheses in a high level statement like in a high level statement like this. That's what the sub bullets are to define, and that kind of goes for 3.1, that we have the parenthesis statement there. Just remove it.
Mr. Stasiak.
I was going to ask that, what happens if you just remove the parentheses statements? Does it impact what we're trying to say? Do they add anything? In other words, if we just say support a culture of community belonging, what have we added by adding those words?
Good point.
And also, we use the term bonds above and then belongings below, and maybe it's support a culture of community belonging and bonds or something like that. But words have meaning, and unfortunately, those three words in that order bring a lot of baggage.
So I would agree. I'd be fine with removing the kind of example text, because I agree that the action should kind of better define what we mean by that. And as I was thinking about 3, and based off of what the auditor said, and even, Grant, your explanation, I think that maybe we should change community of belonging caring government that supports all community members and looks for opportunities to strengthen community pride and belonging.
Well, I had another suggestion. I was just
Okay.
waiting on Grant to finish because he kind of moved off that. But what about it, based on what he said, you're looking for people to bond to the community. So if you remove community bonds at the end and say strengthen people's bonds to the community. Anyway, it's just a thought.
I think in this context, the community is talking about the people, not necessarily the city. So I kind of like the pride and belonging, because I think that that's what we're trying to strengthen, is people have that pride in the community and feel that they're a part of it. You guys are looking at me like a cow looking at a new gate. Otherwise, I'd make that a motion, but.
Yes, Mayor.
A
state your
caring
motion again.
government, a caring government that supports all community members and looks for opportunities to strengthen community pride and belonging.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second to change the major text of number 3 to what you see above here. Belonging. Yes. Sorry. Okay, for just this, we have a motion and a second for just this one change. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. I think that is a good, sound change. So let's go back then to the subsection 3.2, where we have some parentheses in 3.1 and 3.2. I think either the mayor, you had suggested just taking that subtext out. Mr. Greeno? So is that a...
That's a second.
On both. So discussion on removing those parentheses language on both 3.1 and 3.2. Thank you very much. I lost my place. Sir.
What I like about actually removing them is I think this is a case where it makes it more open to the future as we move forward, as opposed to more restrictive. And I think that's good, because things are changing so swiftly in our culture.
Well said. Other discussion. All those in favor of removing those two pieces of language signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes and they will be removed. Thank you very much. Any other discussion on section 3? We had 3.2. We discussed them both.
Coalitions in their work to address social service needs of the community and support a culture of community belonging. Are we missing anything? Do we want to encourage ties back to the community or anything like that? I'm not sure what the right word is.
That kind of goes along with what Beth had said about bonding to the community versus the community bonding to them, Beth, you want to talk about that any further? Is it discussed enough in here with the new language, what you were saying?
Oh, I was just trying to get Grant's wording, or Grant's thoughts into words, and what we used is fine.
Mayor?
Yeah, I really like the change to belonging to be consistent, because I think that when you feel like you belong as part of something, that you're bonding with that. You feel like you are a part of it. And when you're a part of something, you take that pride. So I feel like leaving it broad with these at this point, we've reached out to a number of groups and have received feedbacks, but I think I don't have something specific. Haha, you can't talk when I'm talking.
I have a thought. How about opportunities to celebrate the community? We're always looking for opportunities to celebrate our community. This is the right spot for that, whether it be the 4th of July parade that was mentioned earlier, whether it be Halloween, whether it be I'm thinking a third bullet and continually support events and opportunities to celebrate the community that is Findlay. Because think about the energy around that Halloween parade and the energy around some of the events. I mean, it's just unbelievable. People count on those things, and that's why the division of Main Street with the islands was so intense in the community, because it hurt something that was so important to them in their minds. I'm not saying it did or didn't, but you guys see where I'm going?
Support for that? Mr. Russell?
I think there's some, not ready to pull to act on it now, but I think there's some merit in it. And as the sub-bullets are continue to be created, we might see a difference between a culture of community belonging and celebration warning a third bullet. You could also potentially do it with culture of community belonging and celebration just in 3.2, adding the words "and celebration" to the end of 3.2. But at this point, the idea is good. I just don't know that I'm ready to
Okay.
commit to it.
Fair enough. I think, Jim, you bring up a good point. We've memorialized that here as a footnote in 3.3 for discussion later, so that we make sure that we cover this either in the sub-bullets or in a separate goal. Very good. Any other discussion on section 3? Very good. Any other discussion? Thank you. Moving on. Section 4.
A thriving business environment that takes care of existing businesses, attracts new businesses, supports local entrepreneurs, and is economically sustainable is the goal. So the objectives are continue to strengthen economic development through ongoing partnerships with the Alliance and other entities, support businesses and entrepreneurs through programs offered by the city, leverage broadband/fiber network infrastructure for businesses and residents, support education and workforce development, build a Findlay, Ohio brand and partner with other stakeholders to promote it, prepare and implement a Findlay Airport strategic plan to support strategic plan investment, increase utilization, and generate economic development opportunity. I bet Grant's going to say something about the airport strategic plan.
Correct. That's an action item, not an objective. It should be a bullet point someplace, but it's not an objective on its own.
Which one, Grant?
4.6.
I guess, what if we take that up a level to where we recognize here the importance of the airport? I've been involved locally in economic development in one form or another with the city since 2000. Actually, I'm fibbing to you, since 1992. And I have never been in a meeting where the economic development folks, the CDF back in the day, didn't promote that airport as hugely important to their connections to the world and to our success. So could we
I
say
concur
here?
that you would want, you're right. You're looking at a general, at this level, a bullet point for the airport, spot on, and then this is under it.
Oh,
And
I see what you're saying.
And because, I mean, in essence, if you look at this, you're saying that the airport is an infrastructure item, is as important as your broadband fiber network infrastructure item. You know, it's there. Yeah, the verb leverage might not be the right one, but the meaning or the gist of this is there.
The only reason we get the kind of money we get for the capital improvements at the airport is because we are a municipality. In other words, Marathon used to own it years ago, if you didn't know that, and they gave it to the city because we were eligible for the grants to maintain the runways and the hangars and the infrastructure there. And, you know, for the longest time, and I think it's still true, just that runway is wide enough for a presidential Air Force One to land on it is a big, big deal.
And that's a good point. Without the FAA grants to maintain the runways, and I mean, I think that's in our capital planning book. That's the airport is a tough road to hoe for a community like this size, and so you do live and die on those FAA grant funding, and to lose that or not have access to that is ludicrous.
Prudent to, instead of support, protect.
I kind of like protect, promote, and we don't have to have this is another one that we can at our next meeting, let this digest a little bit.
And I think you could say there, protect the Findlay Airport as a resource for the city. In other words, rather than get into the specifics of it.
That's what that sounds like to me. It sounds kind of odd.
So promote the Findlay Airport as a community tool.
Community resource, or as a vital community resource.
Could we say promote and protect? Because I think there's something, promote to me is just advertise it so people land their plane here.
What's wrong with leverage?
Well, we're back to leverage.
Protect implies that we're going to lose it. I don't think we're going to lose the airport.
That's a good point.
it-
Where's my
it's-
phone?
I guess it does go back to Jim's point of wanting to keep it as a city asset rather than selling it.
To who?
anybody who may want to come in and buy it. I don't know, Randy, are you wanting to buy an airport?
But it's the same. It's just like Jim said. It's not going to go to private ownership because the FAA has skin in the game to maintain an airport network.
Well, what if the Port Authority said they wanted it? In other words, at this point in time, it's in my opinion more important that Findlay owns that airport than that we would consider allowing a third party to own it, a third entity. And a lot of airports are owned by ports, but I don't think we should ever give that up lightly and lose that control.
How about safeguard? I'm just using, I actually looked it up, yes, with my fancy phone. Safeguard or preserve. How about one of those two? Randy, what do you think? Sorry, not
Preserve and protect.
promote and preserve.
Yeah, how about promote and preserve? Preserve instead of protect?
Or preserve and promote.
Just we can always come back to it in 2 weeks.
Understood. So how are we doing now? Mayor, read what we got.
Promote and preserve the Findlay Airport as a vital community resource.
Very good. Comments?
I
You can
would,
digest this some more, but I think this is getting there. Mayor?
I was just going to make it a motion to change the language for 4.6 to promote and preserve the Findlay Airport as a vital community resource.
Second.
We have a motion and second by Mr. Stasiak for this current language that you see there. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Very good. Good work.
I have a comment for 4.2.
4.2, Jim, bring it on.
Support businesses and entrepreneur through programs offered by the city. Look, considering Grant's point and my thoughts, maybe we need to back this one, make this one a little higher level in the sense that we don't just want to do it through programs. You support your businesses and your entrepreneurs and those folks in the community through programs, through zoning,
Legislation.
through legislative initiatives, through assistance, grant assistance. How many times we passed the ESID, the environmental SID for a business? So and we have no cost, we just have paperwork.
Yeah.
But that type of thing. So I guess support entrepreneurs and businesses through
Various initiatives.
the economic guy. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
I was at a business. Yeah, I was at a business conference down in Columbus, and the guy got up who was attacking the income tax, the lobbyist. And I stood up and I said, "You've done more to damage small businesses through zoning and regulation and controls than the income tax ever did. It's never harmful to pay a tax on a dollar you made."
Good point.
Dennis, is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do I have a second to Dennis's motion to change as we see here? I will second that. Discussion.
Did we lose the back end of that sentence, or is that it? Well, the rest, okay.
Very good. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. That's another good change. Good catch there. Any other concerns with section 4 as you read through the major bullet points?
The only other question I had, Jeff, is I love that we have support education and workforce development. And we learned recently that I think it's Owens has now started a CDL.
They were looking at submitting a grant for that program. That is not moving forward at this time.
Well, but it makes my point. Support education and workforce development. And I think we should consider, and it may belong somewhere else, but in encouraging training or development or education into needed areas. For example, if you need a backhoe digger right now, they're all retired. So you've got to pay rather than $500 or $600 or $800 to dig a backhoe, to hoe something, you've got to pay $2,000 to $3,000 to somebody because he only wants to work on Thursday.
Right.
And so we need backhoe trainers.
So
I
that-
guess that's my point.
I think that goes to it's a very good point, Jim. I think, this goes back to the discussion that we consistently have had. I had at lunch today with Treasurer Sprague about the continuing to promote the skilled trades. Driving a backhoe is definitely one of those. Yeah.
So you could say support education, skilled trades, and workforce development. If
There
you
we
just
go.
added that, would that cover what we're talking about?
I think that's fair. Anybody else? Very good. I would make that a motion that we add skilled trades into 4.4. Support education, skilled trades, and workforce development.
And I'll second that because that covers one of the items that we dropped from one of the meetings.
Very good. Well, there we go. We're making progress on two fronts. Man, I love it when a plan comes together. Very good. Discussion.
I
Dennis.
got a quick question. When you put that in there, does that include the construction trades?
Skilled trades definitely includes construction trades. Yes. Hammer throwers, everything is in there.
To me, it would just be phenomenal if someone did a study that said, because we were an island as a community. We're not attached to any major metropolitan area. And as an island, communities that are sustainable as an island, what are the businesses they absolutely have to have and be homegrown for them to survive and be successful long term? And there are certain businesses you have to have, and I'm guessing a backhoe digger is probably one of them.
Definitely is. Very good. We have a Mayor?
I guess I just want to put a point of clarification that this doesn't come off as us specifically calling out unions, just because sometimes those can be close together, and so I want to make sure that we're talking about trained labor, not necessarily
Union labor.
correct. And I'm fine with the addition, but I also think that both education and workforce address trainings for skilled labor. And so I feel like that's probably addressed a little bit more in the action items, but I don't have any significant issues with the language change.
We're in 4.4. See, I think it's a very good point, Mayor, but the use of the word trades versus skilled labor, I think covers what you were promoting there. And I think that. Put it on the record, that's not what we're. Well, I agree. We soundly promote both union and non-union members. Very good. Other discussion? All those in favor of that change, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Very good.
Then my only other question here is, I like, whether you want to brand it or market it or whatever, I like that we have Build a Findlay, Ohio brand partner with other stakeholders to promote it. Is this the place, is this the right spot for it, or is that kind of a higher level? I'm not suggesting making it one of the 6 or 7 objectives, but is there a better place for that here? Because it covers everything. It covers our community. It covers, we are Findlay, and that kind of goes to the discussion we had under 3. I don't want to belittle ourselves by leaving it here, and when it covers so many things.
It could be in 3.
I guess I would, if it's okay with the group, I'll just make a note, and I think planning next, when they're doing their final pass, may have recommendations on kind of where to maneuver things.
Fair enough, Jim. Yeah, it may be consolidated into another section. We'll make a
Not
note on that.
consolidating, but moving it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, item 4.3, the broadband, reading the 2 bullets underneath, I don't know if we want to have the conversation now, but it's about the sub bullets, and I kind of wonder if 4.3 holds up as a at this level after the conversation of the sub bullets. So I don't know how you'd want to do that if we look at the sub-bullets and then say, we don't think we have an item here, let's pull it at that point or discuss it now. Your call.
Mr. Stasiak?
I'm sorry, since this is about economic, thriving business environment, and that's business and residents, I kind of agree with what you're saying. It could drop down because it does fit as an action item.
Well, we actually heard in community sessions, discussion about broadband. And I think there was more than once we had folks who specifically said that the city should offer broadband services akin to the city should offer cable TV services. And I would personally be vehemently opposed to such an undertaking by the city. And so goal 4.3A says facilitate the expansion of fiber networks, including government-owned. And I mean, I would remove the including government-owned. I don't think we should consider it.
Mayor?
We already own the fiber network. We have the fiber loop, which I believe is what this is referencing.
But we're not offering it to individual citizens.
Correct. We're
And
not
that-
providing an internet service. We do own the fiber network, which can be
Actually, I thought
leveraged
this-
by businesses, the schools, hospital, et cetera.
I thought the school owned it and we were,
They own a line, a trunk, we own a trunk.
Okay.
And the county owns a trunk.
but in the sessions that I attended, the folks were looking for a city-owned fiber option that was accessible by private residences.
Yeah. I don't think that is what we're discussing here, and I would actually agree, listening to the conversation, following up on it. I see this as more now, probably fitting better under our infrastructure section, under.
A lot of these can go under multiple ones. Then we need to be specific that is what we're saying here. And if it is having those trunk lines, I mean in essence, I don't want to be in the broadband business.
Right.
You know,
Well, I think
AT&T
that-
is laying fiber, Metronet
Chairman?
is laying fiber. I think the Buckeye Cablevision is laying fiber. I don't want to compete with them because we'll lose. And I'm watching a community do this right now.
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
I was going to say, I think this goes to my initial discussion under old business too. I'm not sure that this is even a power that we have.
Yeah, except
It's not water, it's not sewer. Those powers are specifically named in the Ohio statutes. In other words, again, not being an attorney, so I'm not claiming legal knowledge here, but, so qualify that. As I understand it, as a municipality in the state of Ohio, you only have the authority to do what is specifically stated or strictly implied by the law.
I
And under
understand what you're
717.
saying, but are you telling me that there's no municipal-owned cable infrastructure?
You know, without doing the research, I can't answer that,
Yeah,
but I can
I
tell
don't
there's
know
no,
about
like why is there RTA and all the bus lines? Because cities aren't allowed to own transportation services, so they have to have transportation authorities. This may fall under that example. In other words, we're allowed to own our own internet lines, but are we allowed to be in that utility business? I don't have that answer, and we need a legal review.
Well, they definitely have, at least they used to have municipal electricity because Cleveland's went broke during Dennis Kucinich's.
Yeah, and again, that's one is specifically authorized, because there are still cities that have electric, but again, they are specifically authorized, like our water and sewer are specifically authorized.
Right. Would it be fair for us to highlight this and take it up another point in time? I think that all of this deserves a little bit more conversation. I think honestly at 4.3A, if we took out the to encourage competition, that sentence all of a sudden becomes viable in this conversation. Because,
Fair point to push to another time.
okay,
And then leave it at this level for the time being.
Very good. Mayor, if you just highlight that and note that we'll discuss at a different point in time and a little bit more in depth. I think it was a good conversation and points well taken. So anything else besides 4.3 in section 4?
I was just going to suggest that at some point, maybe we authorize the mayor to engage Bricker, because they're doing a lot of other work for us on some of these specifics. And I think they would be a phenomenal resource for us, Bricker Eckler.
I think that that's a good point, Jim. And if once we redo this, if it even survives the conversation, I think it's a very fair point. All right. Anything else on section 4? Very good. Moving on, I'm going to give it 10 more minutes before we call it, so everybody has a chance to stand up and move around before council starts at 6. Moving to section...
I think we need just a motion to approve the other items.
Could we do what we did on the last one? Jump back a page and then go forward, just read it out and see how the whole thing flows?
Yep, so goal 4, a thriving business environment that takes care of existing businesses, attracts new businesses, supports local entrepreneurs, and is economically sustainable. The items for consideration at this time: 4.1, continue to strengthen economic development through ongoing partnerships with the Alliance and other entities. 4.2, support businesses and entrepreneurs through various initiatives. 4.3 would be pulled. 4.4, support education, skilled trades, and workforce development. 4.5, build a Findlay, Ohio brand and partner with other stakeholders to promote it. 4.6, promote and preserve the Findlay Airport as a vital community resource.
Move to approve with the understanding that 4.3 and 4.5 are going to get future consideration.
Got a motion on the table to approve as is with the amendments of 4.3 and 4.5. Second by Mr. Was that you, Dennis?
Yes, sir, that's me.
By Mr. Hellman. Thank you. Discussion?
Under discussion, I only have one question. In 4.1, we say continue to strengthen economic development through ongoing partnerships with the Alliance and other entities. We don't make any reference to the state there. Do we want to? Through economic development through ongoing partnerships with the state of Ohio and the Alliance and other entities, because they are a vital partner to us. ODOT,
That's a very good
Jobs
point.
Ohio, and this is the place you want to recognize them through. So ongoing partnerships with.
How about remove it? Remove after the with, unless we want to specifically state the Alliance. I mean, that's in
I'm good
essence
with
a
that.
parentheses.
Just delete it. I'll second that if that's a motion.
It's a question. It can be a motion if there's enough people nodding heads.
I think I'm good with that. I think it goes back to the fact that this is an objective, and we would specifically call that out through the action item.
Okay, then that was a motion.
Very good. And a second. Motion and a second to take out the term, I take alliance. With the alliance out and other entities out of section 4.1, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Thank you. That passes. And then I'm going to reintroduce Councilman Russell's motion to accept as put here on the screen.
Second.
That was your motion. You can't second your own motion.
I thought you were reintroducing it because.
No, I was just picking yours up. Sorry, Grant.
Yeah, same. I make the same motion.
Very good. Second by Councilwoman Warnicki. All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Very good. Section 4 is behind us for tonight.
All right, goal 5, an attractive place to live, work, raise a family, learn, run a business, play, explore, and visit. The objectives as listed are 5.1, maintain Findlay's small city character as the community evolves. 5.2, protect and enhance Findlay's downtown as the heartbeat of the community. 5.3, reimagine the riverfront throughout the community. 5.4, care for the natural environment. 5.5, enhance the physical environment in the city's residential, commercial, and industrial sectors consistent with the character of the community. And 5.6, support safe and diverse housing options for all.
Can we go back to the Does that seem cumbersome to any of you? In other words, you want to add 8 more words there? Being facetious.
Yes, it does, Dennis. I agree. But I think, you know what, we actually talked about this quite a bit when we put this in there. It kind of fits with some of our promotional items over the years. Right. And raise a family has always been part of that conversation.
I agree. It's kind of wordy. It's a mouthful. I trip as I say it. Play and explore are redundant. The order could be tweaked around. I'd let the wordsmiths at down in Columbus tackle it.
Other comments? Yeah, I would agree with taking out the word play, but it's not a big deal.
You could actually take out the last, play, explore, and visit.
Right.
No, but they're gonna do that.
All right, we'll call a motion next. I know that, I think some of it is cumbersome because we're so used to the tagline that the chamber currently uses, but we didn't want to have the same language, so we tried to make it slightly different, so I think it just doesn't flow quite as easily, but I'm happy to follow up with planning next to see if they have a recommendation. All right, thoughts on these, and then we're nearing the end here.
Food for thought, is this a good place to break? Because this is a very, very important slide. Not to lengthen.
Has everybody had just about enough of,
Well, do you have a lot to pick on it or to change on it? Because I was reading through it and close to saying move to approve. I mean, I like this at this level, but
I guess I would say to that, to have a little more time to see it in this order with these numbers, and if that is the case, it can be the first minute and a half at our next meeting. This is to me the heart and soul of what people wanted when you looked at the word clouds and the conversations, Findlay, what Findlay's character is. This is really, I mean, everything's important in this, but when it comes to the community from a, whether you say spiritual or emotional or belief or community, I think this is probably one of the ones we really, really just a
point well made.
suggestion.
I would agree with the auditor. I think we've gone through this and made really good progress. Please note, everyone, that we will pick this conversation up right at this point on 2 weeks from today at 4:00 p.m. So please, if you have a chance, now that you have a hard copy in front of you, this is the document that we will be working from. We're not going to introduce any further documents, updates to this until we get through this whole list one time. And then we'll give you an updated list. Is that fair?
Yep.
Very
So
good.
moved.
So moved. Thank you. So keep this version in front of you and please review it so we can expound on these conversations. Councilman Russell.
question, our first meeting in May has been pushed to Wednesday. Are we going to push this meeting also to that Wednesday?
Thank you. That's a very good point. That's being moved as per council rules because there is an election that night, as it turns out. Yes, I would make a motion that we move this meeting to the Wednesday, would be the 3rd. Anybody opposed to that?
Wednesday, May 3rd.
Right. That'll be just like before every other council meeting, unless we get it done prior to that. So you never know.
There you go.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
Jeff, I just want to let you know, I put an end date on these meetings for December 31st.
Very good. Mayor.
I just wanted, did this work out well if I do this kind of same format on the screen for the action items when we get to that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then I will work to prepare those.
Yeah, I just asked that maybe in advance we get a hard copy for some of us.
This.
Yeah, which is perfect, yeah.
On there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, as long as we're working from the right hard copy, I'm cool with it as a aged individual.
I'm not printing this off anymore. We're killing enough trees, so keep your copy.
Very good. We will pick it up right here on section 5 on 4/18/23 at 4:00 p.m. right here.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second by Councilman Warnicki. All in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. See you in 35 minutes.